Assalamu alaikum. You're watching Views and News, and this is our special transmission regarding the US election. And what an election! What a close context. Now, race to the White House. It seems that Mr. Joe Biden, he's really closing in. Currently, he stands at 264. He needs 6 more votes, and most likely from Nevada, if he wins, that takes him to the magic figure of 270. Whereas when you talk about Donald Trump, interestingly, he's leading in certain states, including Pennsylvania primarily, which has got 20 seats, and a couple of other, including Georgia, and that also can give him a push. But all seats should be won by Mr. Donald Trump, whether you talk about Pennsylvania or you talk about Georgia, you talk about Michigan, Wisconsin, or Alaska. He has to win all these states to be the president for the second term, which seems to be a little difficult. Whereas when you talk about the contest, it's so close. I don't think that any other American election would be so close. Great turnout. Again, that has in fact given an edge to the Democrats. Now we'll be talking about that in detail, but a lot has happened during the last 24 hours as we were witnessing and watching the election results on the television screens. I think everybody was glued to the screens, and the kind of upsets which we have seen in certain states. I mean, certain reds went to the blues and certain blues went to the reds. Some of them remained the same. But when you look at the map of the Americans, I mean, regarding the Democrats and the Republicans, the blues and the reds, it seems that the blue is on the right and on the left, whereas the entire mid is all red. So this is what the American analysts are also saying, that there is a great divide within the American society. Now, a couple of very interesting areas to talk about. Definitely, whosoever wins, we hope and pray that it should be good for the Americans, good for the entire globe, because American president is not only the individual who is looking after the American affairs, primarily such a huge country, such a powerful country, military might, best top economy of the world. That means that they have got a lot of influence over the entire continent and as well as on the, I would say, on the globe. Now, to talk about further, let me introduce you to our panelists. We have with us on my right is Javed Siddique Saab. Siddique Saab needs no introduction as a senior journalist, senior writer, columnist. Thank you very much for your time. Whereas we'll be joined in by Mehak Khokar. She's a correspondent of PD World based in the United States of America. We'll be talking to her. Thank you so much, Mehak Khokar, for taking your time out and talking to us. And we'll also be talking to Raza Rumi and Maria Sultan. Raza Rumi is again a good friend of ours, senior journalist, columnist, writer, thinker. He's also based in USA, and Maria Sultan is the director of SASI. She'll be also talking to us in our today's program. Javed Saab, let me start off from you. Now, sir, I'm sure you must have covered and seen and written about so many elections of United States of America. This one is pretty different and damn closer. Up till yesterday, nobody had no idea who was going to win. Even now, you never know that the turn could be towards Trump if he wins all these states. Whereas when you talk about Joe Biden, he just needs Nevada. Yes. That's it. And he is going to get that magic figure of 270. Your take, sir?
Well, I think this is really a very different election this time in the United States of America. Joe Biden is only one state win away from the presidency. Mm-hmm. And it is being assessed and hoped that Joe Biden is going to make it, given the trends, you know, in the U.S. election, presidential elections. I think this is a very different election from the past elections, presidential elections in the United States. That in this election, you know, the voters' turnout
was amazing,
is extraordinary.
Yep.
And this has never been witnessed in the U.S. presidential elections before this. And at the same time, the division within the voters is also very sharp. And the way, the voters are supporting the candidates, President Trump and Joe Biden, presidential candidate, is also something new, and it has not been witnessed before. Very enthusiastic, very emotionally attached to their candidates. And now the most alarming thing is that some of the supporters are roaming on the roads, sauntering on the roads with weapons in their hands. And at one police polling stations, President Trump's supporters, in fact, they almost attacked that polling station when they heard the votes are not being counted, or some fraud
They
is
were,
being
they were in
committed.
fact asking for, uh, in fact, they believe that they should stop counting the votes. That's
Exactly.
what Trump was saying yesterday.
Yeah, but when a vote has been cast, how you can't
Sir, this is
you
your
cannot
legitimate
lose, because
constitutional right to
exactly.
vote, and
So
that vote should be counted.
so you cannot disenfranchise any voter, any citizen from casting his or her vote. So this is something. I mean, this demand is not a legitimate demand, but somehow or the other, Trump supporters have bought this idea, and they have started saying that the vote count must be stopped now. So that is another very bizarre aspect of the presidential election in the United States this time.
Well, let's get some more info from Mehak Khokar. Mehak, how's it where you are? Which state are you in, by the way?
I'm currently in California. I'm in Los Angeles at the moment.
All right, so that is the major factor if Joe Biden wins 55 votes. California has always been very democratic. So, yes, go on.
Well, over here, as you said, California is a democratic state, and I see that a lot of people are actually scared, though, that if in case Trump does lose, which it does look like Trump will most likely lose, then there may be riots and protests, on the streets, and people, even since yesterday, because they weren't sure if the decision would be made yesterday or not, but people were trying to be quite careful and they were trying to stay indoors. The roads were actually relatively empty in comparison to other days because of this fear. But it's majority of the people are on Biden's side, and there are some people that are actually voting for Biden, even though they believe that both the candidates aren't great for the country, but they do believe that Biden is still way better than Trump. And so over here, majority of the people are supporters of Biden.
I mean, when you talk about the probability of riots, I mean, that's very much there. Since Trump will definitely not accept if he loses. In one of his speeches the other day when he was in Virginia, he was very candid and he said, it's very difficult to digest if you lose, and winning is always great. So, but it is not about Donald Trump who's going to decide about the election results, obviously. There are institutions in place and there is a lot going on. But a lot of people believe that this is one of the closest contested elections in the US history. And I mean, looking at the numbers and the percentage was really, really, really fascinating. I mean, such a close election. But now we have also witnessed one thing. I mean, the traditional states like California, for that matter, they have been with Democrats for such a long time and still are with the Democrats. The East Coast and the West Coast primarily, Oregon and the other states as well. But when we were talking about the swing states, I mean, even there, for example, Nevada was won by Donald Trump with a close margin last time in this first election. But during the second, it seems that most likely Joe Biden is going to get those 6 votes to get to 270 magic figure. Now, interestingly, the division within the Americans, that's very obvious. What do you make out of that? Because that is one area that has been discussed so much on media yesterday.
No, there is. There's definitely a division between the Americans. Even they know it over here. And it's just there are some people, even though we believe that majority of the immigrants are supporting Biden, But there are some people that have, ancestors from South America or Italy, but they are actually supporting Trump. They're not very strongly into politics, but they are supporting Trump because they're concerned about their taxes. And I have come across some people that have said that, oh, we're just concerned about our taxes, so we will be supporting Trump. We're not concerned about anything else. But majority of the people that are supporting Biden are immigrants and are people that believe in abortion. They believe that guns should have regulations on them, and and they believe, of course, in science, and they believe that COVID does exist, and they believe that health comes first, and it's not the economy. That if COVID keeps from getting worse because Trump has focused on the economy rather than people's health, and a lot of lives have been lost because of that. So I think, and just like that, because of that very reason, in Pennsylvania, there were a lot of they're now counting the mail ballots, and of course, majority of these people that have voted the mail ballots are Biden supporters, because Trump supporters don't really believe that COVID is that dangerous, or it exists, that they need to take those precautionary measures and support a mail ballot. But yeah, so there is a large division in America. America's a huge country, it has a huge population, and it's very diverse. There's people from different countries, immigrants. So yeah, there is definitely a large division.
All right. Now, Javed sir, when we talk about the early vote, primarily it's unprecedented, and even Joe Biden has said that. I was also surprised to see the number of people, around 105 million, 10.5 crore people. Almost,
Mail-in.
just imagine.
Mail-in
Look at that
votes,
number.
yeah.
And that was almost the 75% of the total vote that was cast in the previous election. So you can well imagine.
I think this time around, the mobilization of voters was huge compared with the previous elections. Given the, the kind of politics that was being pushed up in the United States, particularly the president of US, Donald Trump, he has created a lot of politicking and political activity, and he has raised so many
And the
issues.
kind of money they've spent on the
Spent
election.
on it, but the issues that have been raised in this election, economy, COVID-19, and immigration issue, plus the other issues, the race issue, all these issues were there in this election. And the foreign policy, this is very bizarre and this is very strange, that the foreign policy issue and the global problems that the whole world is confronting were missing from this election campaign. The focus was on COVID-19, economy, racism, and how President Trump handled particularly the domestic issues. And his mishandling of COVID-19 was particularly very much focused in this election. So I think these were the issues which brought people and which mobilized people to come to the polling stations, and the mailing votes, the votes which were polled through the mail, they were huge. I mean, this is unprecedented, the figure that you have quoted. It has never happened in US history before this. So the people were very enthusiastic, very active, and they wanted to cast their vote. They wanted to be heard, through this election.
Now,
So
Javed sir, the interesting part is that a lot of those votes actually went for the Democrats.
True.
And that also surprises everyone. And this is what Donald Trump is saying, that there is something wrong, something fishy, something is going on.
No, nothing.
There are people who want me to
Nothing
lose.
is wrong. In fact, the mood of the people, the mood of the U.S. voter had undergone a huge change, a big change, because of the mistakes that President made during his presidency.
Let's hear this out from one of the Donald Trump's party leaders. He's a Republican, Sajid Tarar Saab, who's just joined us. Sajid Saab, Assalamu Alaikum.
Wassalam, sir. Thank you so much for having me in your show.
Sir, it's a pleasure to talk about the elections with you, sir. Thank you so much for taking your time out and talking to PTV World. Now, tell us what exactly is going on. It seems that most likely Donald Trump has lost the election. It's too early to predict, I would say. But when you talk about the magic figure 270, Joe Biden is just 6 votes away from that. Your take, sir?
Yeah, first of all, I wanted to make the correction. The number 264 is a fiction because Arizona is still not done yet. And they are approximately yesterday, there were almost 500,000, 300 to 500,000 voters. Votes they were not counted. Right now, there are 3 battlegrounds right now, 2 of them with the Trump and 1 with the Arizona. And that was just talking about. And Nevada yesterday, there were a huge number of Trump supporters. They were there. They were claiming, they were asking them that it's such a small state and why you haven't announced the result yet. Plus, the North Carolina, they are holding 50,000 votes are left uncounted, and people are standing up. Why you are announcing the 50,000 ballots votes? They can be counted within 2 hours. But here, a given situation, whatever, I was listening a little bit of your take and your guest take that he has made many mistakes. Yes, he made mistake. He stood up to establishment. That was a mistake. He stood up to fake media. That was a mistake. And whoever made this mistake, he has to pay the price. And who suffer is the middle class and lower middle class. His mistake was this, that he took the unemployment rate to 3.4% in America, first time after the Second World War. Plus, 2 weeks ago, our GDP growth came up, and that was 33.1%. And let me tell you, on a ballot, it was not a 77-year-old Washington vulture. You know who was on the ballot? It was China on the ballot. It was unemployment on the ballot. It was socialism on the ballot. Values, no God, drugs on the value, loot. Since 1 year, they are burning this America. That is on the ballot. And plus, I can't be wrong. This was an international phenomenon, nationalism. People are sick and tired by the traditional politicians. Those are in politics. Those have made politics their business. 47 years is a business. It's not the politics. This is what other day I was sitting with President's son, and he said, we made money and came to politics. People come to politics to make money. And this was on the ballot. And this was an international change. It's not only Donald Trump. Macron is with the same situation.
A couple of questions that I have for you, sir.
Brexit happened, Modi happened, Pakistan happened. Even then the same thing. Establishment is confused in Pakistan. What to do with Imran Khan? So it's an international phenomenon.
Sajid Saab, couple of points. I mean, we do understand that you just mentioned that Arizona hasn't been decided yet. You talk about Nevada, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Michigan, Wisconsin. I mean, these are the states, where the contest is very close. Now, what I'm saying is, just for a second, imagine that Donald Trump loses and Joe Biden wins. So what sort of a strategy do you think Donald Trump is having in his mind after that? Because it seems that the civil war-like situation could just erupt at any moment.
Civil war situation is already there since 1 year. America is burning since 1 year. It's not today. And who is sitting in front of the White House right now? Who is burning Portland today? Who is burning Philadelphia today? Do you have any answer for that? It's the Democrats. It's Antifa. It's Black Lives Matter. It's not Republicans. It's not Donald Trump.
There were certain areas in Philadelphia where the Biden voters there were in excessive numbers, and we can talk about that because Pennsylvania. And when you talk about Philadelphia,
if you allow me to 1 second to draw the picture of Pennsylvania, just give me 1 second. Philadelphia is burning since almost a week, and it's not in the interest of CNN to show the pictures. Reason, because it doesn't fit into their mandate. 30 police officers, they are in hospital, few of them in very critical situation. 40 big stores like Walmart has been looted. I have pictures of people looting washing machines and big screen TVs. This is not a peaceful protest. Plus another thing, Pennsylvania is a fracking state. The backbone of economy in Pennsylvania is fracking, mining, and Joe Biden is against it. Joe Biden is against oil and gas business. Joe Biden is a socialist person. How he's going to win Pennsylvania? How he's going to win? I mean, he has lost the Texas. How he's winning the other stuff? That's why I was telling you. What is on the ballot is the future of conservatism, values, respect, or socialism. Bank of China, or Chinese policy. He has delivered speeches several times that strong China is in favor of America. Who is going to deal with the intellectual property theft of America? You know that what is going on with Huawei and 5G and everything.
Yeah.
The whole world has seen. And matter of fact, not only this, the President Trump has said few times that China has been built with the American money, and it's true. Rustic Belt. He was born in Pennsylvania. They have Joe Biden, who doesn't know that where he is standing most of the time, but he was born in Pennsylvania, and Pennsylvania is part of Rustic Belt. And why we call that Rustic Belt? Because our factories have been rusted. They have outsourced all the jobs to China. That is the reason.
This is the story of the Europeans also. It's all over the world. Not only a new phenomena for the Americans, by the way. China is the hub of manufacturing, sir. And we do understand. You talk about we have a lady from California, and I'm sure she's going to second you that every third property in California is owned by a Chinese there. Yeah. Now, one quick comment. Sir, there has been reports. I was having a word with one of the gentlemen who was based in Chicago, Illinois. And I did ask this question to him that how is the situation like? Because, whenever we think of Chicago, Al Capone pops up in our mind, interestingly. He said, can you imagine during the last 1 month, 80% arms sales have increased. I mean, it's just like buying tissue papers or toilet rolls from Walmart maybe, Just imagine.
Yeah.
So why are people scared? Because they believe that something can go otherwise. There could be an unrest-like situation. People are afraid. So don't you think that if Joe Biden wins, let's suppose if he ends up taking 285 or something of that sort, in the larger interest of the Americans and America, Donald Trump should admit his defeat gracefully, like Al Gore for that matter.
Yeah. Let me rebut that. Let me remind you that Chicago is the home of Barack Obama. And Chicago right now is worse than Syria. Why Barack Obama doesn't go back to Chicago? Why? Chicago has a history of 70 to 100 shootings per weekend. And Chicago is burning. And matter of fact, the gentleman Barack Hussein Obama came with the slogan, hope and change. Why he was not able to change it? Why he was not able to do any police reform? Why he didn't make any judicial
Donald
reform?
Trump has this slogan
because he was a failed
let's
president.
make America great again. So has he made it great again? Now that's my question. He's been in power for 4 years. Sajid Saab. I think we lost the connection, but civil war-like situation, sir. Let me go back to Mehak. Mehak, now, the gentleman was talking to us, and he was a Republican supporter and a leader also. He's a politician. Now, he has presented a picture that looting has started, robberies are going on, civil war-like situation has already erupted in America in certain states. Where is it leading now? Because Donald Trump is not going to step down in any case. He is going to go for the legal option using the Supreme Court and his favorable judges who have been placed by him there, plus a recount maybe in certain states, which makes sense if it is less than 0.5% difference. Yes, but you live in LA. That's the hub. I mean, it still reminds me of that Rodney King, if I'm not wrong. I mean, the way the protest erupted there in America after the killing of that black truck driver, it was unbelievable, unprecedented to see what was going on. So, LA could be another area. Your take, ma'am.
No, definitely. That's what I even mentioned earlier on, that, people are already scared here that there may be protests and riots if Trump does lose. And that is quite likely to happen if he does lose, because we know that Trump is quite stubborn, as it is, as we've seen in the past. And he's already made statements, even though he was losing and it wasn't decided, but he already made statements on television, which is illegal already, that, oh, we have already won, and he was making such statements, which is illegal as it is. But his supporters are very, he has very strong supporters in each and every state in America. So if Donald Trump does lose this campaign, then there will be riots, there will be protests. So I do agree with that part completely, and that's why people are quite scared during these elections. That if the turnout does, if it does turn out to be the way it does seem right now, with the Democratic Party winning, with Joe Biden winning, he's just 6 electoral votes away. And if he does win Nevada, then that's it. Then he will win the elections. So, it does seem likely that that will happen. And because of that reason, people, even though people, the Democrats are very, they will be happy if Joe Biden does win, but at the same time, there is a scare going around that there will be riots and there will be protests. And when that happens over here, they can be very, very dangerous. So people tend to not leave their homes at all.
All right. Now, Javed Sab, one point I want you to throw light on is about the results, right? Now, the gentleman was saying that Arizona is still not clear.
Undecided.
It's undecided. So the case is with. Now, you talk about Pennsylvania, that's a state. Philadelphia is a county there, it's a city.
Yeah.
And I was having actually a word with one of my friends, she's a doctor in Pennsylvania, and she was saying red all the way. So even sometimes you end up seeing, like for example, the campaign is so strong that it gives you an impression as if this person is going to win. Even in Pakistan, sometimes you will end up seeing like money being spent like crazy with, on posters and advertisement and so on and so forth, just to give the impression that, see, we are so. But the results could be totally different. And this is what we have witnessed so many times. So the gentleman was actually focusing that Pennsylvania, because Biden is from there. So that could be the major reason for the difference, sir.
Yeah, but you see the mood this time around, the mood of the US voter as an outsider, as a Pakistani, and I've covered some of the previous elections in the United States, the mood is very different this time around. And the mood that has been injected in the voters this time is because of the presidency of President Trump, because he's not a traditional politician. And he did something.
It seems as if Trump is the president of the Republicans only.
Okay. And secondly, the actions he has taken, the policy actions that he has taken in the United States seem to be not fitting into the scheme of things there. In the third world countries where democracy is weak, democratic institutions are not functioning, they are not robust, and democratic traditions are very weak in this other parts of the world. But the United States has been the the role model for those democracies elsewhere in the world.
Yes.
And for the last 100 years, the United States was leading as a superpower which promotes and protects the democratic values, the freedom of expression, and these kind of democratic values which are valued very much outside in the world. But this time, as the gentleman was mentioning, that media, the onslaught of President Trump against the US media,
in particular
CNN and some other news organizations, was very strange. I mean, no US president.
The concept of fake news.
Fake news. And, no president in the past, no president of the United States in the past picked up these kind of fights and quells with the US media, which he has done. And also, in a very, very open fashion, he was saying that I am going to stop the immigration into the United States. I will stop the Muslims from coming into the United States. These kind of things were not heard of in the United States before this.
Even so, sir, if you remember, I mean, he said, well, these kids were born in United States, they can stay, those 300 and something. Rest, their parents will go back. I mean, that was something very shocking for the Americans, unlike the Americans.
So he also represented, according to some analyst, that he was representing the the white supremacy. I mean, he's a right supremacist. So, these kind of things created division in the U.S. society. And we generally believe and we know that the U.S. has been created by the immigrants. One of the
Yeah.
pillars of the strengths of the United States is the immigrants who went to the United States, used their talent and hard work to make it a superpower. So President Trump was saying that he is going to stop the immigrants, he's not going to allow the people from other countries to come into the United States. And that kind of things actually created division within the US society. And what we are seeing now is that division, taking a different shape. And during these elections, the division has sharpened. And now we are hearing the people are shouting slogans and, they are buying weapons. And the situation could lead to a kind of civil war, a kind of bloodshed.
It's maybe in certain areas.
Yes.
It's already happening.
It's happening.
And I think the next 24 to 48 hours would be very,
Very
important.
crucial.
Very crucial.
And here in Pakistan and some of the Asian countries, we have seen this happening, after the elections when the candidate loses, he loses his mind as well. And he loses his balance. And, the shooting takes place, fights takes place, people are killed, violence becomes the order of the day. And we could never expect, at least I can never expect this happening in the United States, which has been the role
We're the
model.
kings of democracy.
Yes,
Yeah.
and which has been
Javed sir, sorry to stop you here. We've also been joined in by Dr. Maria Sultan. Assalamu alaikum, Maria.
Assalamu alaikum ji.
Good to have you in the show. Maria, I'm sure you must be glued to the television screen and watching CNN or maybe some other American channel and getting the update on the US elections. What an election, by the way. Your take. Simple question to you first.
I think this is the biggest question today the American nation needs to ask itself. What is the nation it will be after these elections are done? Will it be a nationalist government? It would be a nationalist nation which will be based on divided fault lines? Or will it be a nation which, in its pursuit for the liberal thought, be ready to forsake the other 49%, which would be left out of the process? That is one. Number two, I think the factor which needs to be seen is that will it be a multilateral, supportive United States, or will it be a United States which will be shaped by the bilateralism, which has been the hallmark of Trump's administration? So I think these are big fundamental questions which the American nation would have to ask itself. And then there is a bigger issue, that is the issue of polarization, and that is the issue that how will they would be reviving the American economy amidst the COVID crisis, and most importantly, amidst a very rising, sustained, and stable China, whose GDP remains static on almost 4%. So these are bigger questions which the American nation and American government, whichever is going to be shaping the destiny of the people, not only in the United States, but elsewhere, would need to ask itself. And then there's also, for the first time, after a very long time, in the United States, going to be the bigger question of the stability of the American system. How stable is it? And number two, whether or not the American justice system or American national security institutions are actually capable of dealing with a polarized America, which is also, interestingly, a legislative America. Because what we see right now is that both sides seem to be poised towards fighting it out as a legal battle. And if that happens, then we would perhaps be having a world which may not have the singular American leadership which we have witnessed for almost a century now. So these are big questions. They will shape not only the United States, but also shape international security.
Now, Maria, another point. I mean, looking at the current scenario, I mean, what's going on in the United States of America, we were having a word with one of the gentlemen from the Republican Party, and he said that looting has started in certain areas, robberies are going on, there are gangs with the weapons, and so on and so forth. So there could be a civil war-like situation if Trump loses and doesn't accept that he's lost. I mean, do you actually forecast such a scenario?
I think it's going to be a civil war in both cases, because if the Democrats also lose, yes, because the Democrats have been very, very clear that they're saying that they will also go legal if the election process does not yield results for them. Yes, at the moment it seemed that picking up the tide, but if they think that in some way there's an intervention.
All right. And Maria, another point. I mean, that is about the early victory. I mean, almost 28, 20, maybe more, like 30 hours ago, Donald Trump said, well, we are winning and we will win. And he almost declared victory. And he
Yes,
said that, well, there is no point in counting
yes, that's
more
what-
votes. I've
President,
already
you
won.
just let
I mean,
8
that kind
minutes.
of an attitude, how do you look at that?
That's what I'm trying to say. While the Trump administration has been clear that they believe that they are the winners and they have the popular vote to a great degree, and there has been no decline in the Trump administration's vote, at the same time, the Democrats also seem to be polarized. For the first time, we see black militia. We see the immigrant population fighting for their survival. So we see for the first time immigrants also coming out and thinking that their bread and butter and their faith in a shining America would sustain only if the Democrats sustain. So there is for the first time different sides battling for survival. And this is combined to the Bible Belt. And once you look at the Trump supporters, they believe that they have been robbed of their natural right of the American glory, American tradition, and most importantly, that all this U.S. Obsession with multilateralism and going and fighting foreign wars has actually left American nation bankrupt, has put American industry at the back front, and has taken the American leadership away because the industry and the people and the armed forces of America have fought useless battles and perhaps not shaped the American economy and American dream the way it was supposed to sustain. So there is a bigger fight here, and this fight is technically for the soul of America and what America is to represent, a land of the free or the land of those white Americans who believe that it is their religious birthright, which has been taken away by all this extended globalization and extended commitments. So this is for the first time we will see the fight going away from the leadership and coming to the masses. And as we know, that once the fight comes to the masses, it is chaos. There is a bigger question of national security institutions' capability to handle it, and then also their capability to respond. And then for the first time, there will be a big onus on the US justice system and Supreme Court whether or not they can regain balance and come back to some kind of system. So these are going to be hard questions, hard solutions, and no easy answers.
Now, Mani,
Either for the people
another area, I mean, there are two major areas. Trump says that in case, if he loses in states like, for example, Pennsylvania or Georgia or Michigan or Wisconsin, etc., I mean, he has to go for a recount. Now, the law says that the difference should be more than 0.5% in order to, like in one of the cases, it was 0.7% difference with Hillary and Trump. I mean, so wasn't counted. This time, the difference is very narrow, but in certain cases, more than 0.5%. What if it doesn't happen, number one? And secondly, ma'am, also tell me that these early votes, I mean, they were around 10.5 crore, 105 million. Maria, how come they changed the total dynamics of the election? Because a lot of them, most of them went for the Democrats, not for the Republicans. So that made the difference. And Donald Trump is really criticizing. Even his supporters are outside the polling booths, and they are also shouting and raising slogans there as well, and they are saying stop the counting, stop the counting. This is what he said even yesterday. So how do you see that? Is it going to be managed well? Does it make sense to you?
No, it's going to be very, very big, tough legal questions, because you see the question at the moment is that because of the COVID, because of COVID, they had allowed for people to put in a ballot vote through post. Now, these postal votes are, of course, coming in later than once the actual counting has stopped. So there is this bigger question that those people who are standing in line, have they been robbed of their electoral vote? And if so, then why those posts which are still coming in should be counted in the first place? So this is the first legal question which they're raising. Then the second legal question is the one which you had asked, that if it is less than 0.5%, can they go for a recount? Yes, they can go for a recount, because according to that, then they would also have to look at the hanging chads, that is, means those votes which have not been electronically counted, and they have to discern that which side the voters actually meant to sway and which side they actually put in the factor. And then the third, I think the most important factor is also that sometimes the popular vote can go to one side And then there is also the electorates which may not go with the popular vote. So it is also still not
Even
decided that even
in the
after
last election,
counting
we
is
witnessed
done.
the same. Yeah.
Yeah. So once the counting is done, will they actually support the leadership which their popular vote believes that they would support? So a lot is in the air. And then there is also certain things which the Trump administration is thinking about, that is to carry out certain trust actions against tech firms, which they believe, like companies like social media, like Facebook, Twitter, and others, have actually tried to negatively influence people about the Trump administration, and henceforth a simple trust action can be taken against them. So this would also have an impact in terms of how all this process is going to settle in. Now, if the voting is stopped in terms of how many votes actually reach the electoral offices by the end of the polling, then that's another issue. But the Democrats are arguing that they will go on counting the votes till the last one. Then there's also the bigger issue that the three swing states which are still left behind, we see that there the Republicans have also done a lot of ballot ins. So it's not so simple. It's not going to be so easy, and it's not going to go without legal challenge. So I think for the first time, America has not just gone to the polls. America has actually gone to the polls where the legal battles are still to be fought.
I mean, obviously, the legal challenges are there. Now, Mehak, kindly tell our viewers about the current status. I mean, the legal challenges involving absentee votes in Pennsylvania and Nevada, contesting local decisions that could take on a national, a close election. Now, what I'm saying is that these are some very legitimate issues that Trump is talking about, maybe about the counting or certain other factors, though he has already consulted with his team of lawyers, and they're also going to go to the Supreme Court. Now, it is generally believed that there are 3 judges that Donald Trump has appointed. Obviously, that could make the difference. So, if they support Donald Trump in any way, there would be a huge question mark on the Supreme Court of United States of America and its powers and its credibility. How do you see that?
Well, yeah, yesterday Donald Trump did say that, oh, I'm going to go to the Supreme Court, and it's very likely that, you said with the very narrow difference, and with that it is possible that it could possibly, because it's so close, such a close election, that for the revote possibility. And we were talking about riots, and we were talking about protests as well, and what we were talking about is that how the Republicans would come out on the streets and they would cause riots. But at the same time, we're also seeing protests in states like New York because of the fact that the Democrats are saying that every vote must be
All right.
every vote
Would you
should
like
be
to comment on
counted.
the same point? The legal side, the legal aspect.
Yeah, the
The
president.
credibility of the Supreme Court would be challenged.
Yeah, because it's being perceived that President Trump has appointed recently a judge, a lady judge, to the Supreme Court of the United States, who is a conservative judge, and the Supreme Court of the United States is now packed with the conservative judges, judges who share the outlook of with the Republicans.
Yeah.
So going to the Supreme Court is being seen in that context, that President Trump is probably expecting that the Supreme Court might intervene, and that could be in his favor, and probably he would be able to stop the counting of the votes, and which is going to benefit him. So that's the thinking, the line
But,
of thinking.
Voting is a constitutional right,
Right.
of any individual, and that vote should be counted too.
Right. And the president
How
actually,
come he can say that? That's my question.
The president had very early in the day had said that the fraud is being committed, and he's going to go to the court, and he has constituted a legal team which is going to battle the legal issues in the courts of law. So, he had said it too early in the day about these things. So I think that he had this thing in his mind, that these elections are not going to be fair, or probably.
Sir, can the American elections in that system, can they be rigged? Can
No,
they
it
be
can't be.
non-transparent?
But you see, when you think that the mood of the people has changed and they are going to vote against you in order to preempt your defeat at the polls, you start saying these things. And I think one of the reasons why the president came out with this statement was that probably he had the feeling that he is going to lose this time around, but he doesn't want to leave the White House. And the re-election of the Republican presidents this for the second time has been there. So he is probably one of those Republican presidents who is going to lose the second term, and that he cannot digest, he cannot live up with.
Well, we also saw George Bush's father, senior George Bush,
he also-
losing his
Yes.
second term. I mean, well, this is the American election, I think, sir. Days are important, weeks ahead are even more important.
Yes, they are.
because we need to see how things sum up out there. But we can hope and pray things would settle down. Javed Saab, it was a pleasure having you, sir.
Thank you so
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mahat, for your time and for your comments. And Maria Sultan, it was
Thank
a
you for
pleasure
having me.
you as
Very
well.
much.
Thank you so much for your time. And that's all we
Thank
have for this hour, but we'll continue our transmission. We'll be with you from 9 to 10 as well with a different set of guests. Stay with us.